RAZA for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me this Sunday evening, my man, the knowledge, Mr. Spencer Fearon. Spence, how are we doing?
I'm blessed, even better for speaking to you, Raz. And it's been a very, I don't know, biblical time. You know what I mean? It's been nuts. So yeah, even better for speaking to you, my friend.
Spence, I haven't spoken to you at all during this lockdown pandemic. I know we've exchanged messages and phone calls, but we haven't actually done an interview. I think you did it with one of the other members of the team.
Yeah, I did something with Coogan, yeah.
How have things been for you personally and your family members during the pandemic?
Hard, to be real. Fun and games aside, I've lost 13 people that I know of. I've lost 4 family members from COVID. So it's been serious. And it's no disrespect to those people, but I also lost my aunt last month, who, not from COVID, but from jaundice, and she was the lady that acted like my second mother. So that hasn't been too easy for me, to tell you the honest truth. I'll just be real with that.
Spence, do you think society took the virus seriously in the first place? I know we were in a partial lockdown. We weren't in a full lockdown like some countries were, where you weren't allowed to go out totally. But do you think a lot of people just didn't take it seriously?
Regardless whether they took it seriously or not, I took it seriously because I lost people I care about. Guys who I would go to school with passed away. I know T.Y. the rapper, that was my guy. T.Y. passed away. That shook me because it was only a few months ago I was with him when I was out in Brixton. So those things, yeah, it touched me.
Spence, I want to jump right into it. We are, a few days ago, it was the anniversary of, without doubt, one of the greatest to do the sport, the greatest to be in the sport, one of the greatest champions ever, Muhammad Ali, who stood for many, many things during his time, was persecuted, was in prison for a number of years.
He didn't go to prison. Ali didn't go to prison. He was persecuted, but he didn't go to prison. They wanted to put him in prison because that was what the fine was in, was it 68? But he didn't go to prison.
Spent what number of years outside of the sport, though, wasn't it? 3 years?
He was three and a half years out of the sport. He came back in 1970 and boxed Jerry Quarry in his first fight back. And then his second fight was against Oscar Bonavina, and he stops him late. I think he stops him in 11 rounds. And then he, March the 8th, 1971, he fights Joe Frazier, and he loses on points to Joe Frazier. But if you think about it, at that time, what Muhammad Ali stood for, he stood for a lot. As a, you know what I mean? It's been used quite recently as well. I remember when he passed away, I did a bit on Sky, and fair play to Sky. They used that clip again, and they put that out. So it's very, very nice to remember a great man and for what he stood for. There's only a few men in history that we're going to get like Ali, that are willing to throw away and give up their livelihood, their money, just because of their beliefs. We don't get that in today's society. But in saying that, Colin Kaepernick did give up a lot, and now it seems like the pendulum is swinging back the other way into his favor, because you had one of the heads of the NFL turning around saying that they're supporting Black Lives Matter now. How ironic that, you know, they was not being forefronted with supporting him when he stood up for the police brutality that goes on in America, and he was ostracized and victimized by it. But when you stand in truth, the truth tastes good to a belly full of lies. It's the Angelo Dundee, sorry, a Bundini Brown quote, but that's the God's honest truth. And so, you know what I mean? Yeah.
as you mentioned, as I mentioned, Ali will never see anyone like him again. And during the week of his anniversary, just a number of days before that was the funeral of, unfortunately, the funeral of George Floyd in America. Um, I just want to get your reaction, Spencer. I know me and you have spoken many, many times on this subject. Personally, from your perspective about racism, forget America, but in the UK, your interviews, a lot of haters, a lot of people say racial slurs to you. Before we
It doesn't
speak
matter.
about actual racism, is society too sensitive to talk about these topics?
They are. Listen, for years I remember when on IFL last year, when I spoke about the lack of diversity. And I could longer than that. 3 years ago on Sky, my icon, which I know you've watched, I said the same thing. It's like it's very good to have black people entertaining you, but we don't see it being replicated or in the boardrooms, right? When it could be replicated in the boardrooms, because I know a lot of people who are Europeans who are on boardrooms and they're idiots, right? So come on, man, you tell me you can't have that. So those things have to be addressed. I'm passionate about those things, and unfortunately, because I'm so passionate, people think that it's just another rant. But what we're seeing in the world now is a change. We are now witnessing true history, especially with the pandemic. The death of George Floyd wasn't just the death of George Floyd. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because, and this is the great thing is this, and I want people to realize this Black Lives Matter group, okay, yeah, it's funded by George Soros. If you know anything about George Soros, he funds the Democratic Party on another level, right? In America, he's a billionaire, right? I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is like, can he be the means to the end? Then if that is, then it's totally a good thing, because the great thing about what's happened with this at this present moment is that we're seeing unison in people, right? We're seeing white in America, especially in America, we're seeing Latinos out on demonstration. We're seeing white people out on demonstration. We're seeing black people out in demonstration. Black people have never asked for anyone's sympathy when it comes to this thing, right? They've asked for the empathy, and now they're getting the empathy, because we got to think like, and I say this all the time, there is only one race, right? And the one race is the human race, right? But we are separated into tribes. So we have to now live as that one human family, right? And if it's taken the death of George Floyd, of George Floyd to change that narrative, right? Then his death will not be in vain.
Spence, how important is it that this passion that people are showing across the world doesn't die out? Because normally when something happens and they light that fuel and they light that fire, people get outraged for a week or two or three, and then things start to die out. But how important is it that the passion continues until justice is prevalent?
Name me another thing that we have seen that has hit the world like this in recent times. All right, we haven't seen. So we've seen it now, and because we've seen it, I don't think it's gonna die out because it's hit home. I mean, I was speaking to Ed Robertson of Sky, who's now the head of boxing at Sky, for quite a few hours on this same thing. He was going back and forth, and Ed's not racist one bit, right? The coolest guy that you could. He's cool. He's proper cool. But even he's saying like, because he doesn't know what to do, right? Sometimes people will think like, well, I'm not racist, so therefore I don't need to worry about it. That's cool. I get it. You're not. I could never turn around and say he's racist, right? And that's cool, but it's the mere fact that, what was it? Martin Luther King said, it's not the words of our enemies that will be hurting to us, but the silence of our friends. And these are the things that need to be taken into consideration right now. And it's the silence of our friends that is the, you know what I mean? That is the hurtful thing. So now, like, before I'd be complaining, like, man, I remember 4 years ago when I was out on the Black Lives Matter march and I was going to certain prominent black people come on the march with me. They look at me like I'm crazy. And when I went on the march they had in London 4 years ago, right? It was me, Akala, I'll tell you who was with me. Me, Akala, Kojo, who done really good in Britain's Got Talent. Quincy the comedian, who's like best friends with Idris Elba. And there were quite a few of us. And while I was there, Raheem Noble, the former professional fighter, I saw him there. And he goes, no, I respect that you're here, but wow, bro, ain't you frightened because you're in the media that I said, bro, are you crazy? So when we're saying Black Lives Matter, we're not saying that anyone else's life isn't as important as Black lives. And like I said, we are one human family, right? But we are separated into tribes. Or like it says in the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for one reason, for us to know one another, right? So therefore, let us know one another and let us base things on our similarities and not our differences. But unfortunately, society is not a black or white thing. And I want people to realize this. It's not a black or white thing, right? It is a classism thing. And it is also a good versus evil thing. And that is what it is. So, of course, we're going to get white people coming out and supporting the protest. Of course, we're going to get Latinos. We're going to get Asian people out supporting the protest because they realize this is about good versus bad. It's not color, hasn't really got nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, color is the zenith of the conversation, but it's not color.
Spence, no one is born racist. People are either taught it through their childhood or as they get older, either by friends, associates, or even parents, unfortunately. Do you believe now, with the power of social media, that it's more easy available for people to go out and educate themselves? And also, when you're seeing images like George Floyd, maybe 40 years ago, no one sees that.
I disagree because we saw Emmett Till when he got murdered for allegedly wolf whistling at a white lady, right? And he was battered to death and thrown over a bridge, right? So you're saying maybe 40 years ago we're not seeing it? Yes, we were. 40, 50 years ago we were seeing it. But the thing about now is it's different because it happened at such a pivotal time in society because everybody's on lockdown, everybody's looking for new content. And if this content is being pushed around so much, you know what I mean, of this, and it was horrid because in what was it, 8 minutes for him to die? Under 9 minutes? 9 minutes for him, under 9 minutes for him to die. You know what I mean? The same time that I sat down and enjoyed watching Marvin Hagler versus Tommy Hearns, you know what I mean? This man got killed. The same time. That's mad. So, of course, and it was hurtful. And the thing about it is this, I was getting like, loads of like, of my friends, loads of my white friends, who's like, wives were phoning me saying, I'm really sorry. And I didn't get it. And I'm saying like, maybe I'm immune to seeing the death of black people in America. But then on the same, and I'm going to be 100, yeah? The same passion that we are using for this George Floyd murder, we should use that to educate our young black men about gang culture and the killing of lives and postcode wars, which are stupid and irrelevant because none of us own the major masses of the property which they're holding so dear to their heart. So off of those things, like, it's all good for us to turn around and be in uproar, right? But I'm in uproar over anything that is injustice. If it was the other way around, I'd be outraged. If it was four black police officers, right? and a white guy on the floor and died, I would have the same anger and the same outrage within my heart, because I'm looking at you as my human family. That is it. And energy has no color. So we have to deal with energy and the vibrational frequencies that people give off and how we feel around people. But what it has done, it has become a pivotal turning point in world history. Pivotal. So I'm just very, very happy and fortunate that I'm here to see that.
Spence, your reaction, and have you got a message for those people who are kind of jumping on the bandwagon for their own purposes, whether it's for likes, retweets, or going around looting shots?
I don't care. See, before I was really caring about, like, oh, where was you when I was on this thing, and where were you backing me up when I was speaking about lack of diversity and it was ruffling feathers within, and it's the only reason why you really want to offend someone, just tell them the truth, right? So I speak truth, I stand on truth. People don't have to like me. I don't give a damn who likes me from who don't like me, because the ones who I care about really love me. So that's all. Do you know what I mean? I'm just keeping it 100. Now, there are loads of people who are jumping on this thing, like this Black Lives Matter thing now. But, and this is what I'm saying, but keep on it. I'm glad that we're on the bandwagon. The reason why, because it's going to raise awareness, right? And there are so many people who are doing it for the disingenuous purposes, but at least now we can open the dialogue. At least now certain corporate companies are looking into themselves, which are being taken on board for 2 big financial companies in the city in Canada Water for me to advise on this. They've asked me to come in and advise on this, right? They have to pay, right? But I'm saying, like, it's it's a good turning point. It's a good turning point because of boxing, I have loads of friends from all different walks of lives, and yeah, I was approached by saying that you'd be the right person to come in, and that means a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? That really does. That means a lot. That means a lot to me, because it is about evoking change, but also for people to realize that we are all one people.
Spence, I want to get your reaction. Anthony Joshua went out yesterday in his town where he was born, in Watford, with many people came out from the community. It was a peaceful protest for the Black Lives Matters. Anthony obviously said a few words. I think he went on for a couple of minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. And before he started reading, he clearly said that it wasn't written by him. There's been a lot of uproar and reaction on Twitter about 1 or 2 things that he said. I'm sure you...
Listen. You know why there's uproar? Do you know why? Because they would only deemly see someone like Anthony Joshua just to be an entertainer. And if you take out of that, or you take away from who he is, he separates himself from that narrative. Like I said, people don't have a problem with you going and fighting and punching people in the head. But if you say something on something of this matter, right, then all of a sudden it's like you are the bogeyman. And that's more to do with people's own securities with race. Because what Anthony Joshua was doing, he's actually reading the script and he was answering the questions on the script. But then loads of these little racist people will take that and take that little small segment from it and run with that like Anthony Joshua's some racist. Come on, we all know Anthony Joshua is no racist. When I mean, like, seriously, Anthony Joshua gets called by many people like he's some sellout. But for some strange reason, Anthony Joshua has that balance where he's cool with Black Britain, he's cool with White Britain. Anthony Joshua, to me, encompasses multicultural Britain. And because he encompasses multicultural Britain so much, it's like certain people, right, were not wanting to talk on things. But then he's gone to show his support as a man of color. I can't even say man of color, sorry, as a Black man. He's gone to show his support as a Black man. But the thing about it is this, where was there was no uproar 2 months ago when he was there for Commonwealth Day for the Queen. So work that one out. You know what I mean? I rate what Anthony Joshua done, because Anthony Joshua's saying, nice on the real, and he was 100% real. He didn't say anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He was reading from a script. But certain sneaky little idiots will take what he said and twist it for their own benefits. And that, my friend, is very, very wrong.
Spence, I remember a number of years ago, Anthony Joshua went to Dubai, which is obviously a different culture, a different society. And he visited, I think he's been there many times, but he visited a mosque and he took part in a prayer. And that picture of him in the position of prayer went viral. And we saw all the negative comments.
Listen to me, yeah? That was disgusting, the abuse that he took. And all Anthony Joshua is saying is that I'm not Muslim, right? But I respect all faiths, right? And that's what he did. And he got slaughtered for it. So it's the time and the world that we're living in, because, like I said, once you get to know somebody, right? And you get to know, it's like, what should be compulsory is for us to learn other cultures. We're living in a multicultural society, is to learn other cultures. And once we learn other cultures, then we can get rid of the stigmas of the stereotypes that are associated with those, right? And that's the truth. And that is what is needed, because you know what? And I'm just not even, love is the key. Love has no color. You know what I mean? Love is something that you feel when you really love, just like how you love your mom's cooking, right? You know, you could, like, yeah, I know you're married now, your wife could cook you a meal, well, you know, it ain't like your mom's, no matter what. I don't want to tell you, I'm just being real. It's not like mommy's cooking. It's not. And that's what we need to do. We need to start being more embracatory of other cultures and other people, and start to understand. That's all. Start to understand. And more so with the understanding is this part here. On the times when I be branded racist, and I know for a fact that I have loads of white friends. And you know what makes my white friends so unique? Because I can speak about race and they don't feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I could speak about the atrocities that have happened, right, to the darker people of the planet, and they don't feel aggrieved by it. They don't think, oh my God, here he goes again, you got chip on the shoulder. No, they just go, okay, that is it, right? And these are my white friends that I know for a fact, if I'm in any trouble, they are the first ones there for me. Like my brother Kieran Baines, you know what I mean? Like Andrew Hardy. I go for a whole long list, you know what I mean? Of do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So I ain't buying into that nonsense at all. Even Daniel Kinnan, I love that guy, right? So I'm just saying, I just keep it at 100. So we have to change, man, and we've got to look for love, because love is the key.
Some people I was reading today, people say that Anthony Joshua is too media trained, and sometimes now, as you've seen, he comes out and speaks his mind. So those people can't really win, can they? 1 minute
No,
they say,
listen to it. Anthony Joshua's doing a fantastic job in looking after his family, right? Which he does do, right? He does a fantastic job in being a role model and not trying to be stereotypical, right? That is it. So you know the rules. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But Anthony Joshua essentially is a good person, is a good human being, right? And I'm just being real. If you want to look on a role model for any young child growing up, he would be one of them that I'm saying you'd want to be like this guy. He's a very, very good role model. There's a couple guys that could as role models, and Josh is a role model.
Spence, also what was quite worrying to see during the protests, Anthony Joshua was actually, it seemed like he was in like some sort of boot, some sort of cast. It's come out, had some knee issues and needs to rest for a number of weeks. Any concerns in his fight with Pulev in the coming months?
No. Anthony Joshua is an athlete, and Pulev is going to be out of there within 8 rounds in my mind. Because I don't think Anthony Joshua underestimated me. We saw what happened a year ago when he underestimated somebody. I don't think he's going to underestimate anyone. And also, Anthony Joshua's added facets to his game now. He can also box on the outside. So no, I don't see Pulev causing him any trouble at all.
Okay, to the end of this now, I'm going to give you the mic, the invisible mic. words of wisdom for those people who are partaking in the Black Lives Movement and those people who are not and sitting behind on their keyboards just slating the Black Lives Movement? What would you have to say?
Nobody's looking for your sympathy. Everybody's looking for empathy. We're all human beings. We're all one human family. Let's live as one human family. That's all I can say.
Spence, it's always a pleasure catching up with you, my man. And what's the plan for the rest of the Sunday? Sunday roast?
The rest of the fun, no, I've had that already. We've had that already, brother. Yeah, what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna read to my little girls because the highway rat. You'll find it. You still have to start reading to your little kid. So I'm gonna be reading the highway rat to my kid, and to my two girls, and then I'm gonna chill out and watch some TV or whatever, or have a long reasoning with my mother because I love her emphatically.
Spencer Fearon for IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.